Hey there, and welcome back to Tim Talks Cooking. Today, we are talking meatballs, my friend. That's right, meatballs. And I'm going to show you how to make some delicious keto meatballs that are low carb and that hold together and are still tender and just delicious. And this recipe is actually inspired by my new friend on Facebook and one of my new subscribers, Sherry Baldwin, who I see in social media. It was on Facebook, of course. That she's craving meatballs. She needs a meatball recipe. Here you go, Sherry. This one goes out to you. Now let's get started. Here's what you'll need to make these incredible meatballs. First off, you're going to want a pound of some kind of breakfast sausage. I use the kind that has the best cuts of pork in it. This is also hot and spicy. You can use any kind. You can use the mild form if you like. We like it spicy around here though. You want a pound of ground beef as well. I'm using 80-20. For the fat content, that's 80% protein to 20% fat. We've also got 2 large eggs, and you're also going to need to flavor this. You're going to need a half an onion, cut into medium dice, 1 shallot, finely chopped, 4 cloves of garlic that have been crushed or finely minced as this has been. To bind it together, besides the egg, I'm going to add a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. For flavorings, besides the onions and these aromatics here, I'm going to use a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, as well as a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half of tomato paste, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and a 1/4 teaspoon each of kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. Remember, the sausage is already seasoned. We don't want to overdo it with salt and pepper. We also want, this is a 1/4 to a half a cup of chopped parsley. Oh, and you'll also need a quart of my keto pizza sauce. A link will pop up on the screen. Nobody likes to bite into a delicious meatball or a lovely slice of meatloaf only to find crunchy onions. So we're going to avoid that problem by softening them up and sauteing them first. Here you can see them sizzling in the pan. I'm going to keep the garlic out for last, but the onions and shallots go right in the pan. And we're going to saute them over medium-high heat for about 5 minutes. Distribute the oil around so they can cook evenly, and there we have it. After just a few minutes, your onions and shallots are going to look like this, and you can see that they're translucent and they're softened now. I'm going to season them with just a little bit of salt and pepper. And it's also time to put the garlic in there. I've mentioned in other videos that garlic is very delicate, and when cooked too long it loses its flavor, and if it burns it becomes bitter and kind of awful. I'm just going to saute it here until I can smell it, and there we have it. I'm going to turn the heat off, and we're going to set this aside to cool for just a few minutes. The onions have had a chance to cool now, so I'm just going to go ahead and add them in. They can still be a little warm. They're not going to cook the meat if they're not steaming hot, and even then. The rest of this is really pretty much a dump and go. We just put everything else in there. Here's our cheese, Worcestershire sauce, the seasonings, the parsley, the mustard and tomato paste. Oops, got a little on the side there. Let's get that out. There we go. Let's get all the ingredients in the bowl. That's the ideal situation. And of course, our 2 eggs, which I've beaten, as you can see here. And I'm going to get all of the egg out of that bowl. There we go. Now, if you've made meatloaf or meatballs before, you know there's really pretty much only one truly efficient way to mix up the meat, and it's with your hands. And I'm going to use both hands here. My hands are impeccably clean when I cook, and so I never worry about doing this. Here, we're not really getting them dirty, we're just messing them up. And this is the quickest, most efficient way to mix meat and other ingredients, raw meat and other ingredients. And the thing is, you don't want to overmix. You want to get everything combined well. But if you overmix these ingredients, your meat will toughen, and we don't want that. You'll notice as I'm doing this, my mixture is pretty wet. That's all right. That means our meatballs will be moist and flavorful. Okay, time to form some meatballs. In the meantime here, my oven is preheating to 450 degrees, and I've greased a 9x13 baking dish. I like to get 40 meatballs out of this recipe, so I'm going to do 8 rows of 5 here. And let me just show you how I do that. Pretty much take a little bit of meat in your hands, roll it between your palms until it turns into a nice little ball shape. And there you go. And repeat until you filled up your pan. Don't they look great? These are ready to go into my 450 degree preheated oven for 15 minutes. And here's what they look like when they come out of the oven after 15 minutes. We're going to let them cool for 5 minutes, and then we're going to drain off some of the grease. Here I've drained off most of the grease, and now we're going to add our pizza sauce. We're going to add an entire quart. There we go. I'm going to spread that around a little bit. Now, of course, the meatballs are fully cooked. If you don't want to use an Italian red sauce like this on them, you can simply let them cool and store them. And there we go. These are going to go back in our 450 degree oven for another 15 minutes. It's been 15 minutes now, and I pulled them out of the oven, and you can see the sauce is nice and thick. Our meatballs, just so you can get a look, here we go. Here's one of our meatballs. Cut it in half so you can see the inside. It's tender, falling apart, just beautiful. It's time for a taste. Well, all right, let's give this a taste. Man, this looks good, and boy, does my kitchen smell great. Wow. Man, that is good. They're tender, they're savory and delicious. You've got that lovely savory taste of the Parmesan cheese in there. Of course, all the other flavors, they're complex, a little tangy, and just a little bit of spice. I'm loving this meatball, and I think you will too. And thanks again for joining us here today at Tim Talks Cooking. We'll catch you next time.